Joining me, Conservative MP Vicky Ford, the Labour MP Rushanara Ali, Daily Telegraph Associate Editor Camilla Tominey, and The Observer's Chief Leader Writer Sonia Sodha. Today, with Brexit stuck, should MPs be given control?
We need to find out where the will of Parliament is, where the majority of MPs will vote in Parliament, and nothing should be off the table.
One option Theresa May doesn't want on the table is another referendum.
The Prime Minister is absolutely right to rule out a second referendum. We asked the people to decide. They decided. They've put their faith in us.
And how do we make sure Brexit isn't game over for one of our leading industries?
There's not many industries in which we can look at the world and say we're genuinely one of the best in the world.
Now, can the country wait till after Christmas to find out what happens next with Brexit? Sonia, perhaps the nation would be grateful for a break in this until after Christmas.
It may well be grateful, but it's certainly not going to get it. I think we're going to see many more shenanigans in the run-up to Christmas. There's talk of a no-confidence vote. I don't think we're going to see that, but there is still much to play out, I think, before Christmas. And I think, I think the deal probably is dead, but Theresa May still hopes that it will get through, and she's hoping that by leaving it as late as possible, she's playing a game of chicken with MPs. She's hoping to force their hands into making them think it's a choice between deal or no deal at all.
Sonia,
Well, I think the big problem with a series of indicative votes, and we were just talking about this before we came in the studio, was that we've had this before in 2007 around House of Lords reform, and it didn't result in anything. It didn't result in any changes. And the problem is, even if you got a majority of MPs behind one option, for example, a second referendum, which I think is what needs to happen, if there's not the leadership from the government or an opposition party to see it through, to channel it through, the risk is you might have a slim majority of MPs in favour of something, but nothing actually happens. I don't think we should beat around the bush. I think both of you are right. Actually, there's been a failure of leadership, a monumental failure of leadership on both sides. We've got a Prime Minister looking to delay this meaningful vote because she hopes that it will bring enough MPs round. We've got the Labour Party without a proper constructive position on Brexit. It's on both sides, plague on both houses.
For Theresa May to call another referendum. I mean, her comments have been very strong.
I think
it's political suicide.
I think we could see her pivot to it.
She could, but whether she should, of course she could, because they pivot all the time.
I think it's something
Theresa May black is sometimes white the next
and
day.
I think it's just wrong to say. I agree with you, Vicky. People did not vote for no deal. They voted to leave the European Union partly because they were lied to by people who told them that they'd be giving the NHS an extra £350 million a week. We absolutely know that is not the case.
Well, actually,
it's not going to.
Theresa May said that's 395 now. And also, actually, Brexiteers were subjected to Project Fear in earnest. They were told by the Treasury 900,000 people would lose their jobs.
And they were told by leaders there would be absolutely no economic issues.
And they still voted for Brexit.
All right, well, Sonia,
does it for Brexit in the majority?
Does it help Theresa May to have these rumours of a second referendum in the papers and being discussed on the airwaves? That way, she can threaten with the clock running down that it's her Brexit deal or no Brexit at all.
I think she will think that it helps her slightly now, yes, because, as we've said, the game she is playing is she really wants to bring people on side, and she will be worried, the Eurosceptic right of her party, if they think that there's a chance that Brexit might not happen, I think that will get more of them to sort of swing in behind her deal. But she does have a juggling act to play, so she wants to bring moderates with her. So one way of getting her deal through would be to bring moderate Labour MPs, moderates in her own party. Another way would be to bring hard Brexiteers. And so the talk of a second referendum actually may mean that MPs on the other side think we don't have to back this deal because a referendum, and I think a referendum is Camilla may deny it. I think the fact we're seeing people shoot down the idea of a referendum on the Brexit side so strongly is because they know it's a possibility. They know actually it's an outcome that may happen.
The Brexit side isn't underconfident about winning a second referendum.
Well, it's really funny then. Why don't you bring it on? Why don't you want another referendum?
Because we've already had a decision decision between
We had-
remain and leave won. That's the
A concrete leave option
What
was
do you mean
not put to the
concrete
people.
leave?
We've got a concrete
People
leave
just
option now.
voted
It is the
to
Prime
leave.
Minister's deal.
People
it has
voted
to go to the
leave.
people.
People have already
But-
voiced their opinion in a referendum.
Camilla, you said it would be political suicide for
Of course it would be. It'd be political suicide for either side. You've got a Labour Party and a Conservative Party both offering to leave the single market and the
It's
customs
interesting,
union
Camilla, isn't it,
in
that
an
more than
election.
50% of voters support the idea of a second referendum now in the polls. How is that going to be
Which
political
survey
suicide?
is that, though,
There's
Sonia?
been 2 or 3 surveys,
Remainers
one in
support
November,
it, I'm sure.
one in,
Don't
no,
talk over
more
each
than
other, Sonia.
50% of the electorate
All right.
support the, and I think it's because they look at Parliament, they see gridlock, and they see they're sensible. They know on a practical level a referendum is the only way out.
Well, let's
for
look at
Labour,
Parliament,
isn't
because
it?
never
It
mind-
will be, but I do think all this talk of an early general election is a bit pie in the sky.
Well,
you know,
that may be the case.
Anything can happen.
but a no confidence vote is Labour's holding strategy at the moment. It's the device it's using to avoid taking a position. Labour's not going to win a no confidence vote. They will only win if the DUP peel away from the government, or, you know, there's even been talk of hard Brexiteers peeling away from the government. That's just not going to happen. I can't see it. So this is Labour's way of avoiding taking a position for now on a second referendum. And I think at some point, Labour is going to have to blink. The longer they leave it, the more it becomes a choice between deal or no deal.
But I think the leader's office has crunched the numbers and realised that if they support a second referendum, they're going to lose about 10 to 15% of their vote share.
That's
particularly
just not
in
true.
Leave
That's just not
constituents in
true.
the
I mean,
north.
look at, for
Well,
example,
a Labour source told me that last week, Sonia. That's the dilemma that's going on. You've got a situation where McDonnell keeps on opening the door to it, and Corbyn is resisting and resisting. We know because they both have Eurosceptic tendencies anyway. Piers Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn's own brother, described their support of Remain as a party management exercise. So you've got a huge dichotomy at the heart of the Labour Party, as you have the Tories.
All right, let's
and
Sonia
you could
answer.
be, but actually,
you could
I
be
think if
committing
Labour...
electoral suicide
I'm gonna
in
have
the
to
north
break
as
it
Labour to
briefly,
What
Sonia.
about Scotland? What about Scotland, where most Labour working class voters voted Remain?
All right, we're going to leave
it's
it there.
It's not as simple as that.
Because we learned
the
this
EU is the world's biggest free trade partner. We are part of a free trade zone at the moment with our biggest trading
For
partners.
7%
Those
of the
countries
world.
that
For
Hang on,
I
Tim.
was
7%
mentioning,
of the world.
Australia, Canada, we have the volume of trade with those countries is far, far less. We are shutting ourselves out of a free trade area. The EU is not protectionist. It's ridiculous to argue that. And the government's own estimates, their own economic estimates, show that the economic impact of a no deal, hugely negative, would far, far outweigh the £39 billion we pay
Camilla,
to the
would
EU
it,
for membership.
or is there